Let's discuss the shutdown now with Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State. Congressman, thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. I want to start with the claim from Republicans that Democrats are trying to provide free health care for undocumented immigrants. That is inaccurate, and we've fact-checked that over several days. What Democrats have actually proposed is to reestablish benefits to people who are lawfully present in the country, and that includes asylum seekers, refugees, DACA recipients, etc. I do wonder, Congressman, what you make of the broader argument that the previous administration expanded parole and asylum programs, they argue, to the point of abuse, and that granting federal benefits to those folks is not only inappropriate, but also not a reason to shut down the federal government. Your response?
Well, that's not the reason we're having this budget fight. It is a distraction from the larger issue of the millions of people who are going to lose their health care under the Medicaid cuts and the cuts to the Affordable Care Act. They're focusing on one little niche issue, and there's different pieces to it, to be sure, but the broader issue is the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to the Affordable Care Act, and the whole Republican budget, which did massive tax cuts to the wealthy, added $170 billion to DHS so that ICE agents can violate people's rights all across the country. That's the budget they expect Democrats to simply vote for. Their argument about the undocumented population is a tiny little portion of a larger argument. And by the way, I will point out the Trump administration is busily pulling back that asylum status from thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and deporting them. So that number is going to be a lot smaller, but it is a tiny percentage of the people who are facing health care cuts because of the Republican budget.
Republicans have also argued that these ACA subsidies that Democrats are trying to extend through this shutdown, they were put in place as a response to the COVID pandemic, and extending them would cost some $350 billion over the next decade. I wonder how you justify that price tag if the pandemic is over.
Well, it's, first of all, the impact of that, it was pandemic driven in part, but it was also because so many people can't afford health care. Look, we need a comprehensive health care plan. The Republicans passed a budget that cuts health care, as I said, for millions of people. They're going to lose health care as a result. The Republican budget that is in place and that they want us to continue, that's what the continuing resolution is a set of priorities that Democrats don't support. Now, Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, all the Republicans have said they're not going to negotiate with us. They're not going to talk to us. They're not going to work with us. This is the budget. Take it or leave it. Well, that's just not the way this process works. Republicans can push through what they want to push through, but they can't demand that we vote for it when it puts in place a set of priorities that we completely oppose. It's not just about the ACA. And keep in mind, as I was listening to the reports about the impacts of a shutdown, what about the impacts of the hundreds of thousands of federal workers that the president fired under the DOGE program, many of them illegally? The hundreds of billions of dollars in programs that the Congress had approved that the president illegally froze. How can we make a deal with the president who says he doesn't have to follow the law, who goes on and says he's going to cut Democratic priorities? That's what he's going to do, and we've seen him do that. We have to stand up and say, no, we are not going to rubber stamp Donald Trump's federal government that is a partisan government focused on his power at the expense of his political enemies. How can we just salute and say, sure, that's fine? It's not.
I believe that you voted against extending government funding in March. Senator Schumer and many members of your party voted to extend it. I wonder what you think changed for them. Is it because, as Republicans have argued, Chuck Schumer is trying to avoid getting primaried?
Well, no. What's changed is 8 months of the Trump administration. I mean, we've seen devastating things done by this administration. The health care cuts have been put in place, for one thing, which weren't in place last March. But we've also seen the way he's used the Justice Department. You talk about FBI agents not being able to meet national security. Donald Trump is ordering them to investigate his political enemies. John Bolton, James Comey, people who have committed no crimes are being investigated to get even for Donald Trump. Meanwhile, he's firing everybody who had anything to do with the prosecution of the January 6th insurrectionists. He's using the Justice Department as his own personal vengeance tool. And we're supposed to continue that budget and vote for that? A lot has changed since March.
I wonder how confident you are that at some point Republicans are going to buckle and undo the cuts that they just passed through Congress a few months ago. I mean, where do you see this shutdown ending?
Yeah, no, I think that's a big, big problem. The Republicans have just fallen in line with everything Trump has done. I mean, I guess except for firing Jimmy Kimmel. Apparently that got at least Ted Cruz's attention. But that's tip of the iceberg, the one tiny little part of it. I'm hoping that we will have more instances where they see the president using the federal government for personal vengeance is wrong. And one of the things that I think they could do, that we are asking for in addition to the health care issue, is pass new laws that restrict the president's ability to violate the appropriations process. Because the other thing they're asking us to do is to reach an agreement on a continuing resolution, and the president has made it very clear if he decides he doesn't want to follow that, he just won't. So I think there is some reason to believe that maybe Republicans will stand up for Congress, forget Democrats, stand up for all of us in Congress so that the president can't just void whatever he doesn't want to do after we've cut the deal. So this is going to be tough, but look, these are unprecedented times. I am a person who works to compromise. I'm a ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. I work with the chairman, Mike Rogers, there on bipartisan legislation all the time. That's where I want to be. If there was a chance to be there, I would. But what Trump and the Republicans are doing here is unprecedented, and we have to try to stand up and turn it around.
Congressman Adam Smith, we have to leave the conversation there. Appreciate you sharing your point of view, as always.
Thanks, Boris. Appreciate the chance.